Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the PokeSlam World Championship for 2024. I'm your commentator, Delta, and with me, of course, is Alba.
Sorry for not being here last time. A couple issues arose, but I'm here this time. And yes, our first match of the day is between, I believe, HexagonMC and PokeSlam.
Of course,
We will
keep
have.
in mind we still have a couple of interesting things set up here as we move on to day three. Of course, with the same factors as last time, things such as unforeseen bugs and other consequences. We don't know how things are going to go here. Things could go very well in either trainer's favor. It's more than just a test of skill, Pixelmon. It's also a test of luck.
And also, 2 hours from now, we are going to have another set of matches between Pixelmon Go and Unsorted. So make sure you stick around for that. It's not just the 3 fights we're having today, as usual. Seems the battlers are getting ready now.
This will be interesting. It looks like it's going to be Tolga and Beast-like who will be facing off against each other first here.
It's very interesting commentating in the group stages because we don't really have a detailed history of the players yet or the teams. We don't really know what they have been capable of the past, and their histories and their proficiencies. So it'll be very interesting to develop those stories going forward. And it might be nice to have some players perhaps pick up a reputation or two as particularly formidable fighters. But as of right now, no reputations exist. So it'd be very nice to see that unfold.
I know yesterday I wasn't able to stream the last match, but we had a match that I think only went, or one battle only went about 15 rounds, the fastest one so far.
Oh wow!
It was insane. It was I believe it was Hauntly versus Frozen Fire, Frozen Flame. I'd have to look the exact name.
Yeah, so currently we're aware of 2 bugs going around. There is there's a bug regarding megas, which means certain abilities don't work properly. I think the main ones are Charizard Wise Drought and Mega Manectrix Intimidate. They only work for the turn specifically that the Pokemon Mega evolves, and they do not work beyond that. And there's also another bug we've had over the past multiple days. Certain instances of switching out will cause a Pokemon to be unselectable from the party. So, keeping that in mind, some fights may need to restart a time or two. We'll just have to bear with it. Fixes are being worked on. So, we shouldn't have to worry about it affecting much beyond the group stages, I wouldn't but hopefully nothing else rears its head, but you always got to be prepared for these things. All right, one player is ready. Is the other?
It looks like we're getting confirmation now as Ava Mai representing Pixelmon Go here. Or yes, yes, it is rather PokeSlam. Apologies for the minor discretion there. Looks like PokeSlam's trainer is ready. We'll have to see for ourselves how HexagonMC is.
Nothing yet. I think I did see them earlier saying that they needed a minute. Keep in mind that the trainers do have are given previews of each other's teams, but we as commentators and also everyone spectating, both in the server itself and people watching the Twitch chat, we do not get to see any of that. So we're going into every match blind. which should hopefully add quite a level of excitement, because every potential turn could be a mystery.
It looks like it won't be too much longer until we see for ourselves how this battle is going to go. Any input from either you, Lanky, or Alba, how things are going to happen so far?
I've got nothing.
There's been. I admittedly haven't watched the second day, but watching the first day over again, there was a lot of Pokemon that showed up multiple times, and I'm wondering if that's going to set a precedent going forward for the whole tournament. I think a couple Pokemon that have stood out that have showed up in almost every fight have been Andorus T, uh, Kyurem, Galarian Slowking, which has been very interesting to see how teams have to, well, players have to work around those. I'm very interested to see what teams people have coming forward. It was very, very interesting watching the first day with that. I need to bring it up again because it was such a fantastic team. The Wishy Washy team with what the hell her Reuniclus on it as well. It's very fun to watch. While I know players will tend to lean towards more meta picks, it's always very, very fun to see off meta things that you rarely, if ever, see.
I mean, keep in mind, there was also another
Oh,
thing to
battle
note.
starting.
It looks like battle is actually about to begin. We'll see for ourselves whether things remain the same. I was about to mention how Obscura's brought some very interesting picks with Pokemon, even like Palma showing up earlier. Fortunately, we'll have to see for ourselves later if Obscuros can bring back the victory. And it looks like we have a very good. Ooh, interesting.
Immediate glitch right off the bat.
They must have not selected all 6.
Oh, that's a good question. Someone in chat said, "Would it be worth maybe doing a predict poll in chat?"
Yes, give me one moment here. I need to buy 7 more screens at this rate.
Oh, I live on just one. You'll be fine.
Oh, I could never.
Avamai seems to be having a couple issues. Hopefully, it doesn't last for too long. Refs are working their best to sort it out.
Well, to see first. Oh, it looks like this is interesting.
Avamai seems to be having some PC issues, unfortunately. Having lag issues apparently that doesn't last too long and doesn't hurt their ability to fight too much.
Seems like they're recentering themselves.
Looks like we might have some very much some minor technical difficulties here as we're waiting for everything to be reset once again. It looks like the battle's actually starting here. We'll have to give ourselves some more insight into how things are going to be set up. Of course, once again, we have a very standard lead here between, I believe this is Ava May's Landorus versus Tolga's Ferrothorn here. I don't believe we quite get insight into what these teams have, but these are two very popular Pokemon right now. And so the decision must be made. What are these two trainers going to swap into? There we go. We get
Lele comes
confirmation
up,
now.
gets the fire.
Swapping into Tapu Lele, which is interesting. Could he? Now this isn't.
Always an infamous engagement that Tapu Lele versus Ferrothorn, depending on what sets they're running. If the Lele is running Focus Blast, then the Ferrothorn might be threatened out. But if the Ferrothorn is running Gyro Ball and the Focus Blast misses, then the Lele will likely die. It's always a very
Even
interesting 1v1 this.
keep in mind though, some Tapu Lele do run HP situations like this. So this is the question that remains at hand, everyone. Are we betting on a Focus Blast miss, or is it going to be a
Power
knockout?
Fire.
Oh, not quite enough to KO. And neither is
Ooh.
Gyro Ball here, actually. It was very close, though. We'll have to see for ourselves does what does Ava May do in this situation? Do they attempt to pivot out?
Going forward, if this Ferrothorn lives and say they both switch out, Ferrothorn can still do what it wants to do, constantly be switch-ins. Although its health is lower, it can still switch into attacks that it resists. That Tapu Lele can't switch into anything anymore. So it'd be very interesting to see what they do about this, because it is very, very hurt, and I assume it's probably scarfed. Many Leles are. So I'm unsure what they'll want to do here. Although either way, obviously the Lele is faster right now, and if that Ferrothorn wants to live to do things in the future, Tolga will have to take the Ferrothorn out of the field this turn.
There we go. We
As they do
confirmation
bring
now.
in
They're actually choosing to
Zapdos. It is
swap
a double
as
switch.
Greninja comes out.
Might be a risky play. I'm not sure I would have kept the Lele alive myself. As I said, it is with that little HP left. There's very little it can do unless you want to maybe have a sacrifice in the pocket later, or if it is Scarf, maybe a revenge kill later on.
Now, see, once again, we have a very interesting matchup here as there is very much a high chance of Ice Beam dealing major damage and potentially freezing the Zapdos here. However, if this is a defensive Zapdos, Ava May will have to choose between defogging or going for damage here, and we're not exactly sure. What would you do in this situation, Alba? As this is a very tough spot for any trainer.
I'm not sure that Greninja is more than likely running Ice Beam, whether it's a Battle Bond set or a Protein set. I'm not sure I would comfortably stay in field, but at the same time, I might predict that they're not going to press Ice Beam, thinking I'm going to predict and switch out. So I might just click Thunder or whatever electric type move they have here and punish that heavily. Either way, Psychic Terrain is up, so that Greninja currently cannot use Water Shuriken, regardless of what the players decide right now. That Psychic Terrain is always one that gets me. I'm not sure about other players, especially when
Oh my god, we're
goes
actually
for
going
the
for a different option, going for Hydro Vortex here, as Volt Switch is not quite enough to KO.
Once again, Ava May is now at 2 Pokemon. The or is that the third player? No, 2 Pokemon. Wait, no, actually, never mind. That's Toga's Greninja. My bad. There are now 2 Pokemon: the Greninja and the Tapu Lele, both owned by different. So they're still alive, barely, and it really questions how much value can they bring to the team right now. Sableye comes out after that Volt Switch. Very interesting decision to use the Hydro Vortex there. Probably a Wotarium Z Hydro Pump that probably just hit. Very interesting choice. Very interesting set. That means they're not running Life Orb. And I don't think I saw Protein say anything in chat, so that's a Battle Bond Greninja.
And this is actually interesting as well. If this is Battle Pond, in comes the Mega Sableye. I'm not sure how much it'll do. Being incredibly bulky though is certainly a factor here. As Sableye likely either attempts to take out the Greninja. There we go.
Yes.
The Greninja is down, but this Sableye, no matter how bulky it is currently at a little under half health here.
I think Holga decided to just sacrifice the Greninja there and take a big hit on the Sableye. Now we have a Pelipper coming in. I think that's just revealed that Tolga's running a Rain team, but with a non-Pelipper lead. That was very interesting. Keeping the Pelipper as a Rain setter in the pocket and only pulling that out now. It's very interesting. However, Avamai is running Zapdos, which is a Pokemon that is very well known for punishing Rain teams. And the Zapdos is still very much alive and kicking, so I have to see how that plays out later. As of this engagement right now, the Pelipper versus the Sableye, none of them really do much to each other. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them switch out this turn.
It's also possible as there we go. Pelipper is choosing to swap here, potentially into a Rain Sweeper. I would imagine something like Mega Swampert here coming out.
Zapdos
Actually, Zapdos also
Sableye
works.
heals. Keep in mind that Avamai is running Landorus, so although you could click on Thunder, that's a risky choice. It might be worth, if it is running Weather Bowl as in its set as well, very may well be worth clicking that to get a hard hit in the Sableye, but also punish a potential Lando switch in. We'll have to see.
It looks like although the recovery has been established, I don't think there's much else Sableye can do at this point. And I do believe Spikes is currently up, meaning anything that comes in will immediately have their focus hash negated if that is a factor to be played here. In comes Hurricane. As we go for
hurt badly.
Toxic. There we go, everybody.
I was expecting either a Toxic or a knockoff there, or just switching out entirely. Sableye cannot stay in for another turn though. This is another question. Does Avamai want to lose the Sableye here, or can they switch into something? If they even have something that can take a Hurricane or whatever Zapdos is going to use. Uses Protect, gets a tick of toxic damage down. Very smart. Also, Hurricane is a move that does not have that much PP, so you're burning through that. Every turn counts with a move that only has 5 PP. Obviously 8 with a PP max, if the player has remembered to actually use it.
Keep in mind, Rain is probably, I would imagine, at least halfway done with the Rain turn. So eventually, at some point, Pelipper will have to return onto the field.
I think we're what, 3 turns into the Rain?
I would imagine it's closer to 4 or 5. So
either way, the team on Togus, so far from what we've seen at least, seems to be a fairly standard looking Rain team. You know, the Ferrothorn, the Greninja, the Pelipper, the Zapdos. So far, nothing too surprising. I'm expecting there's probably a Mega Swampert back there as well. Nothing too surprising as of yet. Whereas Avamai's team seems to be just a more general mixed team.
That certainly could be the case, and it looks like they're taking a long time to decide. I would argue more than just to prevent any bugs from happening. Could Zapdos?
What does Avamai trying to think? Because obviously the Sableye dies this turn if they keep it in. I don't know if they have anything that can comfortably switch into the Zapdos right now. because a Landorus, a click Weather Ball could be threatened a lot. Potentially other things may not want to go
Oh my
in for
god,
the
he lands
second
the
protect.
double,
That's
actually.
very risky. That's very, very risky. But it pays off, and Zapdos takes that extra tick of toxic damage, building it up slightly more, meaning that Zapdos cannot stay in for a huge amount of more turns. Although it is likely
There
will
we
get
go. We
boost.
finally get the pivot, and it looks like Amame is choosing to sack the Zapdos here. Although I would imagine a Hurricane crit, certainly not helping the case here. We finally get some major progress into the game as the first of Amame's team, and it looks like a little more poison damage has set in. At some point, Zapdos will be forced to sack.
Yeah. I think that Zapdos can only stay in for 2 more turns. Rain is still up. I think this might be the last turn of Rain, I think. Or perhaps the next turn is. I didn't quite pay attention to what turn Rain came out on. But
I
it's certainly
believe
not up for much longer.
Keep in mind, at any point, Zapdos can swap and roost later, so we'll have to determine what Tolga chooses to do here. Keep in mind, Weather Ball is still very much a factor here. Unless this Landorus is Choice Scarf, chances are this Zapdos is going to take another Pokemon here.
Just a question: has this Zapdos used 2 different moves while it's been out? Because although Zapdos isn't.
Oh my god! It looks like
that
we
Landorus
actually
is
get
indeed
confirmation.
scarfed. You're correct. Yes. Zapdos is taken out.
And that is also a major keep in mind that's a good part of a rain team that is removed. Chances are grass types are now notably stronger in this situation unless we have a better pivot. In comes the Mega Swamper, and I believe this might be either the last or the next to last turn of rain.
Yep. Of course, it does come in not impeded by the Landorus's Intimidate, because Landorus is already in field, so it can do this safely. Landorus is... granted, Landorus is scarfed, so it is... No, it's probably not faster, actually, never mind. But either way, it's choice locked into Stone Edge, so it doesn't threaten this Swampert that much at all. It will have to get out. The question is, what does Avamai have on their team that can comfortably switch into a Swampert? Because the Sableye is half health, the Tapu Lele is almost dead.
There we go. We're
and a
actually getting
Pharaoh
confirmation
comes
now what he tries to
out.
swap to. It goes Barrowthorn taking a very respectable amount from Mega Swampert here. And
Question is,
so
what
here,
does this Pharaoh wish to do?
honestly, Ferrothorn can do quite a lot here
With the
potentially
power word,
as
potentially yes, if it's even running it. Although if it's not attack invest, it probably doesn't kill, because Mega Swampert is notoriously very bulky.
and so the final question and so one of the questions remains, what does this Swampert even have? Because I don't think even Earthquake was enough to hit KO here. Going out of Swampert
Comes
into
out and back into
Ferrothorn.
the other Ferrothorn. Evermai's Ferrothorn choosing to Leech Seed, not using Power Whip or anything, potentially not having it, potentially predicting the switch out. Unsure.
All right, there we go. We get confirmation now as Ferrothorn once again. We once again have a Ferrothorn Ditto. This is gonna be tough. This is probably gonna be quite tough for PokeSlam rather to get out of, as although their Ferrothorn has more health in parts to the leftovers, both of them have it, meaning one of them has to switch out sooner.
Let's see. Avamai's Ferrothorn is running leftovers. I don't know if we know what Tolga's Ferrothorn is running. I'm sure it was. We can figure it out by looking earlier in chat, but I'm not willing to scroll that far up.
We actually get confirmation now. Both of them are running leftovers.
Oh yes, you're right.
We'll have to see for ourselves what PokeSlam does in this situation. And it looks like we know now, as a Stealth
Thanks,
Rocks
back
has
up.
been set. We'll have to see for ourselves how much of a factor this plays into. Of course, this Pelipper can run Hurricane, but is that a risk that is that something that HexagonMC wants to do in this situation? We'll have to see what Tolga does as we potentially wait for Ava May's response.
I think as of right now, looking at the teams, just thinking about the Pokemon that are still alive and who's taking damage. Currently, Tolga's only lost their Zapdos, and
That is very
their
much
Ferrothorn
true,
is
and
just over half, whereas Avamai has their Tapu Lele is basically dead. Um, their Mega Sableye is looking pretty rough as well. HexagonMC's I just forgot Holga's Greninja is dead as well, which might hurt them in the late game, as Battlebond Greninja is infamous for being a late game monster after its threats are dealt with. But of course, oh, we're going. Hurricane Pelipper does have Hurricane and is going to go for it.
there we go. Ferrothorn actually going for Power Whip here, a very decent anti-rain option potentially. However, we'll have to see for ourselves if Ferrothorn will be able to beat this Pelipper. I do believe Pelipper is faster here, so if it's forced to roost, it could be very disadvantageous for Pelipper here. Once again, going for Hurricane. It looks like the Leech Seed has been planted.
Now, Dave might have to think carefully, because I don't believe. I believe a Hurricane will kill it here. I'm not entirely sure. With that leftovers health, I'm not entirely sure, but I think another Hurricane kills it here. What are they going to do here? Are they going to just take it? They still have that Lele that they could sacrifice.
I don't believe we've seen Ferrothorn's fourth move. I believe so far we've only seen Stealth Rock, Power Whip, and Leech Seed. So they could be running Protect. And if it's running Protect, things are looking a little more dire for Tolga.
However, in a stall fight between these two, the developer is going to win every time and with access to Roost. If it's running it, of course.
There we go. Finally withdrawing the Petra run here as a little bit more harm has been done. Iron Barbs finally hurting the Ferrothorn here.
Not
It
sure
looks
about
like
that
once
about
again,
myself.
it's only
Personally, I think I might have stayed in with that Pelipper because I think you were going to win that fight.
That certainly might be the case, but keep in mind, Stealth Rock is still up. So when Pelipper swaps in next, it's going to be taking a lot of damage.
It will be, and this fight might be a bit one-sided with Leech Seed being on one side and not the other.
There we go. In comes the Sableye.
Switch out, bringing the Sableye.
This
The second
could be
set of spikes, which is reflected by Magic Bounce. So now we have rocks and spikes under HexagonMC's Tolga's side.
Now here is the problem at hand here. We don't know what this Ferrothorn is running, and Ferrothorn does still have respectable attack. It could be enough to snipe Sableye at this range, and I do believe Sableye is a little slower.
I have to see. Sableye is.
Oh, we actually got confirmation. It's actually
recovers, yes.
faster here as Power Whip comes out. So we're seeing a lot more Power Whip than expected. Most Ferrothorn, I do believe, run knockoff instead.
That Power Whip did just under half. Not quite enough to burn through in a recover fight. However, if it sets Leech Seeds, that would be over half, and that would potentially threaten the Sableye out. If that's
Here comes the
correct.
Sableye once again as Ferrothorn
And
missing
Power Whip
another Power Whip.
misses.
And keep in mind, Leech Seed is not available right now as any kind of recovery will, any kind of Leech Seed will in fact be
That
bounced
is, of
back.
course,
Sableye going for Protect
yes.
here, trying to stall out more Power Whip. The rain has
However,
also stopped, meaning potentially there needs to be another opportunity for rain to come back out.
and I don't know if Tolga has a hazard
Sableye
thrower
using
outside
knockoff,
of.
dealing a decent amount of damage, as well as removing leftovers. That could be very huge, as Ferrothorn no longer has a good way to recover. Although I want to say about half of Sableye's health has now been removed at this point.
Keep in mind, it wasn't at 100%. It was at about 95% when it took that hit. So I don't think another power up is enough to kill it. It could be a roll, but I don't quite think it would be enough to kill it. And also, there's the chance that the Sableye just protects in its face, burning through more time. And there's also the chance that Power Whip misses entirely.
I'll say now, things are looking very dangerous, potentially for Tolga, as if enough power points are removed from Ferrothorn, it could be a major defensive core that has been essentially been neutered here. Keep in mind, everyone, this is only the first game. We still have 3 more games to go with this set. Coming out, Sableye recovers,
Takes
and
the amount of
it looks
damage.
like yeah, Pelipper is hurt by the Stealth Rock once again.
So it is running Damp Rock, of course. Not running Boots. So it's probably going to be forced to roost this turn.
Now, I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we did see Toxic earlier on this set, correct?
On the Sableye?
I
Or
do believe that is the case.
Yes.
And there we go.
And
Pelipper has been
yes,
poisoned.
I
It
don't
look
think Tolga's sixth has been revealed yet, but whatever it is, presumably it's something that cannot confidently deal with a Sableye.
I want to say a good amount of the team has been put on a timer here, especially Pelipper's Rain. As if Pelipper goes down, once again, we saw this last time between Seabass and the other between Obscuros and HexMC. Here comes the final Pokemon, Iron Treads, as Toxic has been negated. It looks like potentially they must. I don't believe this is a defog on Pelipper. I do believe this is in fact Rapid Spin Iron Treads potentially. And the speed has been raised. Keep in mind,
Although not that it can rapid spin a Sableye. That ghost typing.
that very much is true. However, it does potentially threaten it to force recovery spam unless Sableye makes the right choice for a
Yes,
pivot.
Sableye is a very, very defensive Pokemon. But Iron Treads can also hit very hard. Can it hit hard enough? So by protecting this turn, probably just scouting to see what the Iron Treads is thinking of.
Ooh, this is interesting. Iron
For
Tread's
an
going for
Earthquake.
Earthquake here, potentially to bait out a flying type. That certainly could be the case if Tolga is pulling off something like this.
If my does still have their Zap, no, the Zapdos dead. Sorry, died earlier, but they do still have their Landorus alive, and I believe it's actually at full health still. I don't know if Iron Treads can do much to threaten the Landorus if one were to come out. Of course, this Iron Treads is not choice locked. It had photosynthesis proc via its booster energy. And that Landorus was choice scarfed. I don't believe a booster energy boost is enough to outspeed that.
I'm looking at the
And-
predictions right now as this is happening. Very much things are going in HexagonMC's favor right now. The submissions will close in a little under 6 minutes here. There we go. Iron
Earthquake
Treads
again,
going for
doing
Earthquake.
under half. That is quite big.
Knockoff
not doing much
doing
because it's not knocking off much. I don't know if Iron Treads gets any recovery. So
certainly not in this case. As we watch as
Mhm.
Landorus finally comes out, and the attack has decreased.
The Iron Treads will need to get out of here now because it's probably slower because that Landorus is scarfed, and now that it has -1 attack, anything it could do will not kill that Landorus. So
Another thing to keep an eye out on here, everybody, is rain in Swampert in the rain will still outspeed this Landers, and without anything like Rocky Helmet, it's a very safe switch and potentially. And there we go.
going
Iron
for the
Tread's actually going for
spin.
Ice Spinner, not
It
quite
is
enough to KO
faster.
as Landorus
Ooh.
lands the Earthquake. Iron Treads
This
has
is
been removed as well as one of the last Pokemon that can actually stall out Toxic. However, the Landorus on Avamai's side is looking to be very low on health once again. In comes the
this is the
Pelipper
sort
here.
this is the sort of time where that Greninja from earlier would have been a fantastic time to come in. Because threatens the Landorus with a Water Shuriken, and I would assume could probably deal with probably has enough damage output, seeing as the Sableye has not been taking special attacks very well, been taking quite a lot of damage from them. Would presumably be able to deal with the Mega Sableye as well. But of course, it died really early on. So
There we go. Ooh, we actually get insight
Ooh.
now as Pelipper is coming out into the new Pokemon here. I do believe the rain was not reset here as Pelipper potentially swaps into a new Pokemon, potentially Mega
It's
Swampert here, an
potentially
attempt to
because
Earthquake this Kyurem.
rain is still up, so the Swampert will be faster, so it is not theoretically threatened by a freeze dry. And I do believe a Mega Swampert superpower does one-shot a Kyurem. Yeah, out comes the Swampert, taking a bit of Spike's
Oh,
damage.
ooh, the
But,
rain has
but the
stopped being
rain is
Swampert.
gone. Which one of these is faster? Now's the question. Because if the Swampert isn't faster, it does die to a freeze dry, absolutely without any hesitation in my mind. It will die to a freeze dry, unless the Kyurem is not invested in special attack, but I'm assuming it is. So now that rain is down and Swampert cannot take advantage of that with its swift swim ability, this is suddenly gone from an advantageous turn on Tolga's part to a turn that is very up in the air. This Swampert dies. I think Tolga's lost. I don't think they can come back from this if this Swampert dies.
Keep in mind, though, if this is freeze dry, they will be forced to sack Pelipper, which is a very tough choice to make. And keep in mind, we're not entirely certain if an Earthquake would be enough to KO
I think the
Kyurem.
superpower is.
But that's
Which
the thing.
means
Does this Swampert have superpower? It doesn't have something else like Ice Punch. There we go. Withdrawing Swampert. In comes the Pelipper.
Yep. This is the last time Rain's going to come out in this fight. The Pelipper is dead, and Toga's going for a last-ditch effort in this, hoping that the Swampert can sweep. It will not be faster, and if it's running superpower, it does threaten that Kyurem. It threatens the Landorus. It threatens the Tapu Lele, and it threatens the Sableye. But
That is
and
true.
it does also threaten the Ferrothorn. It can potentially sweep super. If it's not running superpower, then it dies here and now to the Kyurem, and Toga will not walk away with this victory.
One simple move here, everyone, can make the difference. There we go. Lanner's going for Hurum, and there we go. A brilliant sack on Avamai's part, letting the Lanners die so the attack is lowered and having a much greater chance potentially of surviving the next hit.
Very good decision there. Very good decision there. Deciding not to risk it, and the Sableye comes out.
Sableye comes out, but
with that attack lowering, I don't know if the Swampert can guarantee a kill here. It might, but I don't know if it does enough.
we'll have to see for ourselves what happens. Sableye going for protect, trying to stall up the range just a little more. Swampert going for
flip turn, a very risky decision. Granted, I think the only thing faster than that Swampert at this point, if the rain goes down, is what is likely a Scarfed Lele, which is still alive, which you remember all the way from I think it was turn 2, was taken down to a measly 21 health. It is if that thing comes back and ends up being the killer of that Swampert, that will be quite a surprise. Because I do believe that if rain goes down, it's the only thing that can outspeed this Swampert. But of course, now that Swampert is out and will be later coming back in, presumably, that means that superpower, the superpower drop to defense and attack will no longer be in play, as it will come in with a clean bill of stats.
Keep in mind, though, if they choose to flip, they have to make a choice here between potentially letting Sableye recover as they try to swap out flip turn, or if they attempt to go for the KO. Sableye is fairly free to recover and protect here, assuming they still have recover power points left. There we go. Choosing to actually sack here, the Tapu Lele, potentially trying to stall a little more rain. However, the spikes are still very much a factor. And once again, spikes are coming out. The problem here is now Sableye is very much in range for a KO. And I'm not certain if... Ooh, there we go. Swapping over to Ferrothorn, potentially allowing Sableye to survive a little longer. Protect has come out. However, I do believe we got confirmation earlier that Sableye should be faster.
Which means it can just safely recover here. And now that Lele is dead, that might mean that even without the speed boost, presuming rain is gone, that might mean that the Swampert can just clear the rest of the team here.
It depends on the situation. As if it is in fact Scarf, all that needs to be done here is one good pivot on Avamai's part. There we go. In comes the Swampert. As Sableye goes for the cover, I don't think Swampert can safely remove this thing. Whilst Sableye certainly won't be able to remove it in one strike, as Sableye can likely either recover spam and protect until rain is over. And when rain is over, not only will it speed be halved once again, potentially its damage output as well. There we go. Swampert going for liquidation. The rain is still going on.
I'm not familiar and quickly checking to see if base Mega Swampert or base Kyurem is faster.
I do believe base Kyurem is faster at this point.
Mega Swampert has 70 speed, base Kyurem is 95. Remember, if Rain goes down, that Swampert is dead, and I think Rain is going to end any turn now.
Oh, not quite enough. As the Toxic has been landed, choosing potentially to let it sack. The rain has now stopped, and things are looking very much in Stabilized favor here.
I think Evenmai has done a fantastic job stalling through that rain. I think they might have just guaranteed themselves the win now, because I don't think Tolga has anything that can deal with the Kyurem anymore.
Keep in mind, though, even if they attempt to swap, I do believe that Fairthorn is on fairly low HP.
Mm-hmm.
So if the even I would say 2 freeze dries would be enough to KO. Sableye trying to get a little more health, potentially trying to get a little more toxic stall out. However, I'm not certain how much that'll matter at this point, as Kyurem has a very good shot at winning the game. I believe we've only seen so far Swampert and Ferrothorn come out. Are those potentially 2 monsters?
I think it might be. I think Evenmai might have pulled themselves out of a very, very, very dire situation with that.
There we go. Out comes Ferrothorn. In comes the
earlier.
superpower as a clear opportunity to sack. A very good opportunity on Avamai's part, choosing to sack the Ferrothorn. Toxic is enough to take out the Swampert, though.
I do not believe that the Ferrothorn can do anything, as in the Ferrothorn and Tolgasai can do anything, because now it has to deal with a Kyurem at full health while being very low itself. Not to mention the Mega Sableye that's still never my side. I think the battle has. Yep, there we go.
There we go. Avamai clutching
Pokemon
up and
remaining.
beating HexagonMC with 2 Pokemon remaining. A very close match there.
Yes, very close match. Many times where both players could have won, and at the end it kept flipping between them. It was very, very good match there. But Avamai just managed to scrape ahead in the end, making a few very, very, very good decisions, stalling out the rain, and not even having the Swampert die via the Kyurem, but die via simply being stalled out by the Mega Sableye. That was very impressive to watch. As now Hexagon MC has come away with its first victory, and the teams go back to the drawing board to decide on their next fighters.
We'll have to see how Hexagon MC fights back against PokeSlam here, as things are currently in PokeSlam's favor right now.
I think it was Hexagon MC was oh wait. Oh yeah, okay, never mind, you're right. Sorry, I mixed the players up. I'm bad with names anyway, and these are names that I don't know. So
Ooh, this is actually interesting. We're seeing the manager for Hexagon MC, Kex, going up against Beastlike here. And it looks like Kex himself has stated that he's ready to go. We'll have to see how Beastlike is able to handle the kind of team happening right now.
and I will say about that previous match, I think I'm fairly sure I can say that those players are fairly even. I don't think one of them was particularly outshining the other. I think they were both making very good decisions, and just one managed to edge slightly forward in the end there. So it'll be very interesting to see how this next battle goes. See if it will be a similar thing, or if it will be a bit more weighted towards one side than the other.
I do potentially want to get I don't think we quite get insight into the teams just yet here. It looks like the team previews have been set up. Now, I will say there's quite a lot of interesting things I've seen so far. I've seen a lot of rain teams, a lot of I've seen quite a lot of balance cores too, but there's certainly other things that we haven't seen that much at all. I'm surprised I've not seen other weathers, except for I believe Seabass's Sun team, and especially no stall yet, which we should be very lucky we've not seen.
Although Stoll has been very heavily discouraged, and of course nerfed as well with the PP nerfs to recovery moves. So I'm honestly surprised that we haven't seen any full-blown hyper offense teams yet. Of course, they're not as in favor right now as they were at the start of this generation, but this generation is still very, very, very hyper offense. Not necessarily centered, but hyper offense has been considerably more viable this generation than it has been in the past. What
Oh,
with
there we go.
Stole? Oh,
I think I thought I briefly saw a Pokemon. Apologies for that, everybody. What does he
got
ever?
me excited. Um, yeah, with the manager of HexagonMC fighting, I'm assuming that they're quite a skilled fighter. I'm assuming we're probably gonna have a balanced set from him. Although I very much could be wrong. From them, sorry, I don't know. What else they go with. However, from the side of PokeSlam, Beastlight, I don't know what to expect.
There we go. We get confirmation now, and it looks like we have a very interesting lead here as Kex is bringing out a Grimmsnarl here. This, I believe, might be the first one we've seen all tournament so far.
And of course, Grimmsnarl being a Pokemon you need to play really, really carefully around. It's usually running one of two sets, but even then, it's a prankster Pokemon. You don't mess around when a prankster Pokemon's on field. And speaking of hyper offense, Grimmsnarl is a very common lead for hyper offense teams. Immediately goes for a parting shot, not wanting to set up any kind of screens. Heatran comes in and gets knocked off by the Ferrothorn, losing its leftovers. The Ferrothorn, of course, will be threatened out here.
Now this is interesting. Heatran no longer has recovery thanks to leftovers.
Any
However,
damage it takes will be permanent.
I will say this Ferrothorn is directly threatened here.
It needs to get out. There are, of course, many things that can safely switch into a Heatran, and I expect Beastlight to have many of them. So this Heatran will likely get one turn. A lot of the time when this happens, it chooses to Will-O-Wisp or Toxic or even set up rocks. And we'll have to see what it decides to do.
It is entirely possible Heatran attempts to go for a Magma Storm to trap something in. Ooh, this is actually interesting. We're swapping over to different walls here. While Toxvex does both of them technically threaten each other here. And however, it looks like Gliscor has been poisoned thanks to the Toxic Orb, meaning Burn is no longer a factor to play. And it looks
Great
like
Tusk comes in, not taking too much damage from the Earthquake, shrugging it off quite easily. And the
ooh,
Protosynthesis has triggered, meaning it is running booster energy, and it has raised the Great Tusk's speed. Meaning there's only a couple sets that run speed. Great Tusk is one of those Pokemon that can run a million sets, but due to the fact that it does have that speed boost, it narrows it down, and it's likely a lot more of an offensive focused Great Tusk. This Gliscor will have to be careful here. Likely have to switch out.
it should be known though that chances are this Great Tusk is running Ice Spinner, and I imagine that would be enough to KO the Gliscor here.
I don't think the Gliscor can stay in comfortably, because even if the Great Tusk isn't running Ice Spinner, oh, And it's coming
Ooh,
with it. Yeah,
yep,
it
we get
is a
confirmation now.
Kartana taking the Ice Spinner. Kartana is, of course, a very frail Pokemon. Does actually have a fairly decent defense stat. And of course, Ice Spinner isn't stab, so doesn't have a huge amount of damage. Unfortunately, I can't see the health of the Kartana because the gods of this mod have decided that I'm not worthy to see the health of the Kartana.
I do imagine that if they're choosing to bring Kartana in, potentially they are scarfed and they are confident that it will be enough to KO. However, if there is also the chance it is a bluff, and if it is a bluff, a brilliant play, frankly, on Kex's part.
Keep in mind that this Great Tusk can just hit it with a Fight type move, but it does switch out.
There we go. We get confirmation.
Killing with a
Leaf
Ferrothorn.
Blade, even despite the quad resist, dealing over 10% to a bulky Ferrothorn here.
And of course, the Ferrothorn just regens most of that with its leftovers, taking barely anything. And presuming that the Kartana is choice locked, it will need to get out because it's going to take more damage from the iron barbs of Ferrothorn than it can actually deal to the Ferrothorn.
That very much is true.
I don't
However,
believe Kartana gets any move that can threaten a Ferrothorn, even if it's not choice locked. So I think either way, it's probably going to need to get out. And I'm assuming the Heatran's probably going to come back in because there is very little a Ferrothorn can do about a Heatran, especially since it's already been knocked off and the Heatran has already lost its item. So it's not like you can threaten that again.
there we go. Kartana is
Kartana
being
coming in
withdrawn.
and the
That kind of
Toxapex
confirms.
coming in. Oh, sorry, no. Oh, they both switch. Cortana is switching to Heatran, and the Ferrothorn coming out in favor of the Toxapex, predicting the switch, I assume.
Keep in mind, though, neither Burn nor Toxic is
Mhm.
particularly helpful here. Scald comes out dealing actually a surprising amount of damage given Toxapex's fairly low special attack. Could this potentially be an offensive set?
Potentially, but also Gliscor is mostly defense Pokemon, really especially defensive Pokemon. That's mostly what the Heatran is there for, as it is far more of a special bull than anything else. Personally, I might have just stayed in with the Heatran, unless it's not running Earth Power. If that Heatran doesn't have Earth Power, then presumably doesn't have much to threaten the Toxapex with. Although the Toxapex might not want to stay in for another turn against this Gliscor. Very likely will be switching out here. Potentially giving the Gliscor one turn to do as it wishes. Could be doing many things with that. Could set hazards, and depending on its set, it could Swords Dance right in the face of the Toxapex. Many things a Gliscor can do with a free turn. We'll have to see what it decides to do.
There
Yep,
we go.
goes
Toxapex is
for the
being
Earthquake.
withdrawn as Earthquake comes out once again. This combination of Toxapex and Ferrothorn is a major reason why Stall has been so powerful over the years, even with the nerfs potentially.
Knocking off the Ferrothorn as the Ferrothorn loses its leftovers, meaning it's going to be slightly worse at regenerating health. Presuming it's running Leech Seed, which we're unsure because it hasn't shown that it has yet. The Ferrothorn's ability to recover damage is going to drastically go down. It does
Ooh,
Leech Seed though, so it does have that, but of course Leech Seed is not reliable recovery most of the time.
the problem here is this Gliscor potentially running Swords Dance? And if it is, if it's running Swords Dance, does it have potentially Roost to 1v1 the Ferrothorn here? If that's even a possibility we're considering.
The Gliscor
Ooh, Gliscor actually running
defaults.
Defog of all things.
Getting rid of the spikes that were set earlier. Gliscor comes out.
Once again,
Back in
out
comes
comes
Heatran.
Gliscor, and in comes the Heatran. Is this potentially air balloon? Maybe. Actually, no.
No, it was already knocked
forgot.
off. Yeah.
Apologies. I forgot. Despog removed the spikes.
Personally, here I would predict that I would predict that the Heatran hopefully, at least, that Kex would expect the Ferrothorn to switch out this turn. So he's going to go for something else. Possibly utility move, like setting up rocks, or threatening status effects, like Will-O-Wisp or Toxic. But hopefully he doesn't just click a fire. If he does, then I think he's wasting a potential free turn that he gets.
There we go. Once again, withdrawing the
Does
Ferrothorn.
just click Magma Storm. Not what I would have gone with myself, but that does mean that Toxapex is trapped.
That's very much true. And given the amount of damage Earth Power can do here, Earth Power is potentially going to landing a Scald here. This essentially means that with Toxapex trapped, and I do believe Heatran is faster, this Toxapex, it has been removed. A major defensive core has been removed. This is why trapping can be surprisingly good sometimes, everybody. This is looking to be more and more in HexagonMC's favor.
The Iron Valiant comes out, boosting its speed. Very, very heavily threatens this Heatran. If this Heatran wants to be used later on, it needs to get out right now. Regardless of whether this is a physical or a special Iron Valiant, either way with that speed boost and Heatran's current health at 65%, the Iron Valiant threatens it.
Now, see, again, here's another interesting dilemma. You could either do the silly decision to keep it in, potentially trying to read maybe a Moonblast. In comes Heatran, in comes the Grimmsnarl, as Valiant sets up Swords Dance.
It is either a mixed set or a physical set, but most likely just a physical set. And it has a speed boost and it is now +2 attack. This Iron Valiant has gone from a threat to scary, as the Grimmsnarl only gets the chance to set up one part of the screens. Of course, even if it is running Sash or anything like that, it doesn't matter because that would have been broken by the spikes that it came in on. This Iron Valiant may threaten a sweep, even with that Reflect Up. Iron Valiant, of course, an offensive monster, especially one that can completely break a team when it's hidden in its pocket, hidden in one's pocket like this. I'll have to see what Kex decides to do about this. I don't know if Kex does have anything that can actually deal with this. Unless there's something on his team that's perhaps scarfed, or I'm guessing hoping that the Glor live. I don't know if it does live, although it is defensively invested. I don't know if this does live an attack from this Iron Valiant, because Iron Valiant will be faster.
Keep in mind that the Reflect is up, so the +2 has essentially been negated.
But that Gliscor is at 57%. At full, maybe, but at this health value, I don't know if this Gliscor can live an attack.
Valiant goes for Spirit Break, dealing frankly negligible damage as Gliscor once again heals up with Roost.
I think I'm expecting the Iron Valiant to Swords Dance again this turn.
We'll have to see, though. Will Commentator's Curse actually come into play here, everybody?
Goes for
Iron
the
Valiant using Encore.
Mini can status means its only attacking move is Spirit Break, but that does mean that it can just set up till the cows come home.
We actually know the other move. We know it's Spirit Break and Swords.
Oh yeah, it's fair point. It's Spirit Break, Swords. For some reason I thought it was playing Agility, but no, it's photosynthesis. Spirit, likely a close combat or perhaps a drain punch or something. I expect a fighting type. That encore is huge because that means that basically Kex is now forced into a corner and has to either decide to switch and give the Iron Valiant a free turn and potentially to what he's switching to 2 free turns, or just sit through the encore. We'll have to see. Either way, this Iron Valiant is almost certainly going to set up this this coming turn.
Things are looking to be very dangerous for HexagonMC right now.
Mhm.
We'll have to see what they go for.
And of course, with these turns being burned through with the encore, likely only 1 free turn, as I'm assuming Kex is going to choose to switch out. Every turn that goes past, Reflect goes down by another thing, and they're deciding to stay in and just burn through the encores. And Kex, I believe, has... Oh, they didn't forfeit. At least I don't think so, but the match is over.
Ooh. Oh my.
Refs are going to be discussing behind the scenes.
Let me
We're
get some
quite unsure what
confirmation
just
right here, but it might have been a forfeit.
it doesn't seem so. Kex is saying it wasn't over, to be honest. And also they seem quite surprised. I don't think that was a forfeit.
I
think
believe
something
one
else
of the
might have
players
happened.
quit. Like ended the battle.
PokeSlam very confident that it was going to
Oh, maybe not.
I am fairly sure that that Iron Valiant would have just swept, unless there was something else that Kex had up his sleeve that I don't know about.
Checking the console here, it says too many errors detected in battle. Force ending.
how are things looking so far on the referee end, Linky?
We're still trying to discuss this here.
I see.
Seems the match was not guaranteed to go in Beastlike's favor, as Kex did have another Iron Valiant of their own on their side, that had a photosynthesis energy booster as well, which means it would have been a speed tie, and they both would have OHKO'd each other. Would have been whichever one won the speed tie would have OHKO'd the other. So it was not necessarily guaranteed to go in Beastlike's favor, although
Wow.
heavily weighted. as Beast-like still had four other Pokemon other than the Iron Valiant, five total. I have to see what the refs decide. We may have a complete rematch here. We're unsure. We'll simply have to wait in a ruling. Well, I think we're going for a rematch. Okay, never mind. Agent, it seems the refs are looking at the current team's HP values to maybe do some calcs behind the scenes. Either they're trying to see if an error happened, or they're checking the health to see if there's a definitive winner that can be figured out from that.
Interesting. We'll have to see for ourselves what happens here as this battle develops.
I think refs are currently figuring things out behind the scenes. Before this stream started, I did jokingly say, every day we've had another bug just add on top of the pile, and it's like getting progressively worse. I didn't want that to be a 3-day pattern, but it appears it has.
We'll have to see for ourselves what actually happens here. And it looks like as we are looking at this right now, there we
The
go.
refs
The
have decided
moderators,
a
the
conclusion.
referees have come to a conclusion here.
All right, so we're going to have a restart. However, will be a 4v4.
Now this is
decision.
interesting. Potentially,
Especially seeing as I do believe that um, Beast-like had more than 441 alive at the time. Was it the 5 or 6? Unsure because it said 5 in the chat, but apparently his Iron Valiant was still alive, but it glitched into dead. So we're unsure how that may have affected that chat message. It's either 5 or 6 alive. But it seems that despite that, we're going to a restarted match, and it's going to be a 4v4. Interesting to see how that plays out.
now here's something. At least something I've personally rediscovered. I've discovered that usually the less Pokemon that are in a match, the more offensive gameplay that usually happens. We've seen this before in certain metagames like 1v1 and 3v3s. We'll have to see for ourselves whether or not that holds true for 4v4 singles.
Again, 3v3s and below, at least from my experience, stolen defensive cores don't really have much room to work with unless they are unless you have something like a Alolan Ninetales or Grimmsnarl to maybe set up screens, but those are explicitly to allow the hyper offense Pokemon to shine even brighter. Hyper offense is absolutely king in these metagames. Not entirely sure how much 4v4 will differ from that. I have to see. 3v3 is infamous for not lasting that long. Usually over and less than 20 rounds. Unsure how 4v4 will stack up to that.
It looks like we're. Ooh, okay. It looks like Beast. It looks like both Beast-like and Kex are ready.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like. And it looks like the battle is about to resume, everyone. Keep in mind, this is going to be a 4v4 this time around, meaning there's going to be a much faster game between Kex and Beast-like here.
Sorry for the hold up, folks. We should be battling again any moment now. Both players do seem to be ready. And have decided the 4 Pokemon each they wish to bring. Want to give a shout out to the refs. Thanks for managing to come to a decision and also won so quickly. Last thing we want is these games lasting, forever. Oh, Beast has gone to the bathroom. What tier is this being played in? This is a slightly modified version of National Dex OU. Terra is not in. as it's not in Pixelmon, so some things have had to be adjusted. With that in mind, a couple Pokemon that are only banned because of Terra being banned are allowed and playable, such as Melmetal and Regieleki.
Keep in mind, certain Pokemon that were normally not in OU, even without Terra, Pokemon like Melmetal and Palafin, especially, although we've not seen as many as I expected. Both of them are also allowed in OU.
And also, something to keep in mind as well is that due to Pixelmon not being entirely up to date with modern Pokemon, because these things take time to make, not all of the DLC Pokemon are in. So although Ogerpon is in, the masks don't work properly. So the masked forms aren't in, and basically all of the Pokemon from the second DLC, from the Indigo Disc, are not in as well. So that means no Gouging Fire, no Raging Bolt, no Iron Crown, no Iron Boulder, none of that. No Archaludon, no Hydrapple. And also however, moves from those DLCs, I believe, are in, I think. So things such as Upper Hand and Psychic Noise, I think, are in play, I think. I'm not entirely sure on that. Don't take my word on that. But essentially, it is a modified version of National Dex OU without Terra. And the battle begins.
There we go. We get confirmation now. Once again, we have a very interesting thing here. While Valiant is not able to set up here against Heatran, as Splash Cannon is a very high chance of KOing. Keep in mind, Heatran is also facing a risk here, as I do believe close combat would be enough to KO.
However, I do believe that Beast likes. Never mind. I was gonna say.
Oh my god, he's actually going for the sword stance, and Flesh Cannon
very
immediately takes out the Iron Valiant.
That is probably, honestly, this might be a game that might have just been decided from turn one. Losing a Pokemon that has such a strong offensive presence in something like 4v4s is extremely bad. This has unfortunately had a very, very bad turn for Beast-like from the first turn, but going for something as risky as Swords Dancing is and now the Toxapex has been Magma Stormed as well. Meaning
Skull dealing a decent amount of damage, but keep in mind with Leftovers recovery, it's not doing nearly as much as Beast-like
this
would hope to.
Toxapex is likely just dead. It is Magma Storm trapped. It can try and stall through, and it's doing its best.
Keep in mind though, with limited Earth power, sorry, not even with limited Earth powers, with limited recovers, I do think Toxapex is recovering health, but every kind of damage, any kind of Earth power has the chance of reducing special defense here. And if that's the case, Toxapex has a considerably lower chance of survival.
Toxapex is, of course, trying to recover spam to stall through the Magma Storm ticks so that it can eventually free itself and switch out. If it can live long enough.
Earth power comes out once again, not quite doing anything here. Keep in mind, it's only a 10% chance, I believe, to reduce special defense, or maybe it's a 20%. Eventually, that will proc, and when that happens, this Toxapex is severely threatened.
But I do think that the Magma Storm trap effect does not last that much longer.
That is true. I do believe actually, in fact, it's ended. Magma Storm has avoided the
misses. I think that means it's over. I think the Toxapex can safely switch out this next turn, presuming that Beast-like has a Pokemon that can safely switch into.
Ooh.
And it doesn't switch out.
Magma Storm has it trapped once
unsure of
more.
the decision on that. It might. I don't know if it was trapped last turn, but if it wasn't, I'm unsure of the idea of just staying in like that. Because now it's trapped again, and
Red Tower comes out once more.
it's
Still
yeah.
not reducing special defense here though.
Recover only has so much more PP. There's only
That
so
much
much
is
more this
true. Once that
Toxapex can
happens,
do.
it'll be forced to regenerator switch. In comes Earth Power once again. Still not critting or anything like that.
Losing that Valiant from turn one really was very bad, and Beastlike has been on the back foot since. As his Toxapex is trying its best to survive, but I think there's only maybe one or two more recovers left. I think it has with the PP reduction. Um,
Toxapex still hurt by Magma Storm, and I'm actually a little more surprised at the fact that Earth Power hasn't either crit or lowered special defense yet. There we go. In comes in comes another Earth Power. I don't think I'm seeing any damage to Magma Storm. I do believe it's over.
this is Toxapex's chance to get out. If it doesn't take it, it's not living another. It doesn't have enough recoveries to live through another couple turns of Earth powers. It needs to get out now, or it's not getting out at all. I don't know if Beastlike even has something that can safely switch into a Heatran. Especially not a potential Magma Storm that's likely coming.
There we go.
Pharaoh
Finally
comes
withdrawing
out.
Toxapex, and a very unfortunate miss to Magma Storm
Very
here.
interesting choice with a 4v4 running two Stole Pokemon. I'm not sure I would have gone for that myself. It's a very risky play. As we've discussed before, the less Pokemon are in the team, the more hyper offense shines. And two heavily defensive and lackluster offensive Pokemon on a team like this is a very risky play to make.
And so the question remains, though, I don't think there is any safe opportunity to switch. It is possible that he's attempting to stall out Magma Storm power points so he can freely switch in as Toxapex pleases.
But even then, the Toxapex I think only has one or two more recoveries left. I don't think it can.
There we go. Here
It
comes the
does
Magma
it.
Storm once again.
Yeah, killing the
Sacking the
Ferrothorn.
Ferrothorn here. What is on the other Pokemon? In comes Toxapex here.
Very. I'm unsure on this. I don't think this Toxapex is winning this engagement unless the last thing they have just absolutely cannot do anything about a Heatran. Very
Oh,
unsure
well,
on that.
there's the critical hit, but it might potentially
Doesn't
have
do
been on the
much.
wrong Mon.
Wrong move. Yep. Doesn't do much.
Here comes Earth Power once again. I don't think it's quite
Mm.
lowering special defense. In comes more recovered.
They must be very limited in PP now. I can't imagine many more are going to be used.
I do believe there's more Earth Power points than.
Oh,
There we go.
absolutely.
In comes it once again. Skull dealing
And it's
negligible
scalding.
damage.
I think recovery's probably gone.
This Heatran, thanks to Earth Power, is enough to take out another one. This Heatran actually has removed 3 Pokemon, and there we
The
go. We get
last is
confirmation.
Scizor. That is very unfortunate. I think that I don't think Beastlight can come back from this. I
Scizor
think it's
going
over,
for Swords
unfortunately.
Dance here. There
Yep,
we go. We get confirmation.
that is very unfortunate. Beastlight with such a
Kex has beaten
strong. Yep.
Beast with all 4 of his Pokemon
Such
remaining.
such a strong showing in the 6v6 match. Unfortunately, really fell short in that 4v4. Not being able to take out a single one of Kex's. That will be for your HexagonMC. And a good one at that. There'll be many points for the leaderboard. As I said, unfortunately, I think he may have lost that from turn one, deciding to Swords Dance Although I do kind of understand why he went for the sword stance instead of switching out, because as we've seen from his team, nothing the rest of the team could really deal with that heat ram. So I understand why he did switch out. And presumably it was running close combat or drain punch or something, some kind of fighting type move that it could have clicked. And presuming they were assuming that Kex was going to know that and was going to switch out, being threatened by it, so they sword stance instead, but they just didn't. It was a gamble, and it was a gamble that did not pay off. But we are going to be getting to the third match now, the last one between PokeSlam and HexagonMC. And as of right now, the teams are even in terms of their win losses. Hexagon having won the second game, and PokeSlam winning the first game. And we have Sushi Roll versus Domino Stein. Sushi Roll.
Looks like we'll have to see here which of these two will win. Unfortunately, I'm afraid I must be away for a bit, at least for a short time. I have some personal matters to attend to. Hopefully, I should be back by the end of this round here. I leave everything to you, Alba.
All right, I'll do my best. So we have Domino Stein representing HexagonMC and Sushi Roll representing PokeSlam going into the final round between the two servers. Hopefully this one is going to be more stable. Although, you know, Caster's Curse probably shouldn't open my mouth. Sushi Roll is just PP maxing their Pokemon now. Like, can we have some another thing of predicts? If you're with us, if you're alive.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, can we have another thing predicts for the final?
Yeah, of course.
Between
Give me 1 second.
Smunk hits on MC.
Being suggested, Alba, that you turn up your mic a little bit here.
Unfortunately, I can't turn up my mic. All I can do is physically get closer to it.
Gotcha. I've got you maxed out on my end, so.
All right, I do hope that's a bit better, unless, you know, unless the microphone is like physically in my throat, it's not getting much closer.
I can, I have an idea. I can up it in OBS and then just turn it down.
Yeah, up the Discord volume, yeah. Potentially.
Should be better now.
Teams are currently getting previews for things out behind the scenes. Also, I never said my name. Hi, I'm Alba. Hello. Our other commentator is Dragon. Of course, the other mysterious voice within the voice chat is Lanky, the I believe head organizer. Would that be the correct title?
I guess we could go with that, yeah.
Okay. Obviously, a couple issues, but we're working through them. You know, it's a good thing that we're figuring out these issues now, because although it is unfortunate they're happening at all, it's better that they happen in the group stages where teams have multiple chances to prove themselves, and rather than the actual bracket later on. Presumably, by the time we get to the bracket itself, hopefully these issues will be mostly sorted. So the important fights will be undisturbed. So far, the teams we've seen from Hexagon and PokeSlam have been fairly standard. There hasn't been really anything that's been too much of a surprise. I think the most uncommon thing I've seen is probably a Mega Sableye, and that's not particularly uncommon by any stretch of the mind. So it'll be interesting to see going into this third and final match if it will keep up that pattern, and if we will continue to mostly see fairly standard stuff, or if we'll perhaps get something a bit more, off meta and off kilter. We'll have to see. And it predicts our route. Oh, I love gambling. All right, teams have the previews. We're just waiting on the players now. Any moment now, the battle will be starting. Just a reminder, if anyone has come in late, this is not the final match of the day, although it is our final match between these two teams. We have another set of matches coming up. Not wait, in 20 minutes between Pixelmon Go and it's here somewhere. Pixelmon Go and Unsorted. So make sure you stick around for that, because we do have more coming up. Of course, we'll be on for the group stages will be lasting for quite a while. We'll be having one almost every single day, a couple matches almost every single day for the next couple of weeks, I believe. I see a Gyarados. One of the it is owned by one of the fighters. Very interesting. Gyarados currently sitting somewhere between off meta and meta. I wouldn't quite say it's I was going to say it's uncommon. Very interesting to see what it's running. And also what the team is built around it, with a Deoxys defense on the opposing side. Looks like we're in for a interesting match. Although, of course, I don't know if these are the team's leads. All right, I think the battle's starting. Who did you predict? Who did you expect it? I didn't see. Oh, there you go. Right, so yes, Gyarados and Deoxys. Many Gyarados are Mega Gyarados, which this one is immediately Mega. Going for an Earthquake. And Deoxys knocking off. Presumably expecting the the Gyarados to be running a non-Mega defensive core instead. Presumably, the reason that the Gyarados didn't just go for a crunch or something, assuming it does have that for stab. No, it's oh yeah, it is Water Dark, yeah. Is just the fact that they would assume the Deoxys would switch out, which it does with the Cresselia coming in. But with the Gyarados Dragon Dancing, which is very scary, very 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 scary. Cresselia has come in. I mean, Cresselia could potentially threaten with a Fairy type move, but unless it's special attack invested, which a lot aren't, I don't know if it really threatens a kill on this Gyarados. This also could be a Trick Room team, as I believe Deoxys defense is fairly slow, and I know for a fact Cresselia is very slow. The Gyarados going for the taunt. Cresselia cannot Trick Room. It is indeed a Trick Room team. So now we know 3 of this Gyarados moves: Earthquake, Dragon Dance, and Taunt. That last slot probably isn't Crunch. It's probably Waterfall, as Water Stab is usually stronger than Dark Stab. This Cresselia will likely have to switch out this turn. Especially now that it can't Trick Room, which is explicitly what it wanted to do. Unless it does have Moonblast, which you could potentially threaten with. But no, the Iron Hands comes out. And the Gyarados Dragon Dances a second time. This Gyarados has quickly gone from just a threat to genuinely something scary. That I do hope a Sushi Roll has an answer for. A good predict though. Predicting an Earthquake on the Iron Hand, so switching into the Cresselia. Which, yeah, and the Gyarados is also running Waterfall. And the Cresselia is now dead. I do hope Sushiro has something to deal with this, like a fast Scarfer or something. There's a very good chance that they may have already lost, just letting this Gyarados set up not once but twice, and also fairly unscathed, taking basically no damage in the process. Iron Hands comes back up, potentially coming up for a fake out to just get a hit in at least. To see. Does not have fake out. However, Earthquake doesn't kill just. It goes for a Thunder Punch, but it's not quite enough. Both Pokemon in fairly similar territory. Of course, the Gyarados is faster, and Iron Hands will go down. And a Mega Mawile comes up, and of course, intimidating. So the Gyarados' attack is now only at +1, not +2. However, I would assume that an Earthquake would probably still kill a Mega Mawile when the Gyarados is at +1. I could be wrong in that. We'll have to see. Mawile has Mega Evolve with a Sucker Punch, but it's not quite enough. An Earthquake is enough to kill, but this Gyarados is looking very, very low. Most priority moves at this point will kill it, and anything that's faster will kill it if Sushi Roll has the capabilities to do so. If not, then this Gyarados is likely going to Just sweep. Deoxys comes out. Probably does live whatever this Gyarados wants to do. Probably, Deoxys defense, obviously a defensive monster, one of the most defensive Pokemon that exists with any meta game. Taunting the Deoxys. Deoxys goes for the knockoff, but it doesn't do much. But of course, it will kill. It will kill this next turn. Waterfalling the Deoxys, and the Deoxys will kill this turn. If that Gyarados had just gone for 2 waterfalls in a row and hadn't bothered taunting, it would have killed the Deoxys and likely the only thing standing between it and the rest of Sushiro's team. But that Gyarados is finally down. Meaning I believe that was only the first of Domino Stein's Pokemon. I believe that's the only one we've seen. Whereas half of Sushiro's team is dead, and the Deoxys ain't looking too pretty either. So Domino Stein with a fantastic start. As the Superior comes out. Superior's had a very interesting generation. Very short generation. It was basically unusable due to the sheer amount of hyper offense going around. It really just was power crept into oblivion. But as the generation has gone on and on, it's really found its place again. And in fact, I think it's being used more in this generation than in his last generation. So it is nice to see. It's one of my personal favorites. It is really nice to see it increase in usage, and of course being used here today. Be interesting to see what it does against this Deoxys. Of course, Sushi Roll massively on the back foot as the Stack Attacker comes out. The Superior substitutes. Very, very, very good move. I don't know if the Stack Attacker has anything that can break through that substitute in just a turn. Does Superior Leaf Storms. Of course, it's a contrary set, so its special attack has gone up by 2. As Stack Attacker sets Trick Room. And the substitute is broken by Gyro Ball, but Superior's next Leaf Storm misses. Stack Attack is now being faster due to Trick Room, and Superior not protected by substitutes. Might be threatened out. Of course, Superior is very fast, Stack Attack is very slow, so Gyro Ball would hurt a lot, but will it hurt enough? Superior switches out into Gliscor, taking Gyro Ball as it does. Taking about, it's over half, about 60%, 65%. It's hurting quite a bit. Cannot take another, and Trick Room is still up, so another Gyro Ball will kill it. Perhaps Domino Stein is just trying to soul through the Trick Room as Corviknight comes out, taking Rocky Helmet Chip. Sorry, Sakataka taking Rocky Helmet Chip from the Corviknight. Not doing much with the Gyro Ball. This is a good answer, especially if this is a body press, an iron press, iron defense body press Corviknight. Could very well threaten the Stack Attacker. And either way, can easily stall through the Trick Room turns. Regardless of how much Soshi-Roll tries to claw back some kind of momentum, it's it's probably just not enough due to the fact that they have significantly less Pokemon than Domino Stein has now. I mean, Domino just has far more variety to answer with than Sushi will be able to throw at. So, Sushi Roll absolutely in the back foot here. Oh, very interesting. The Corviknight switches out into the Superior, and Sakataka goes for what I think is probably a Z Stone Edge that completely annihilates Superior on switching. I don't know if that was a predict or just a hopeful Z Stone Edge, but either way, Trick Room is down. The Gliscor is on field. I mean, Stack Attack is very heavily threatened. I didn't see if it was Air Balloon, but either way, it doesn't matter because it is at 37%, meaning it did take a hit. So if it did have an Air Balloon, that Air Balloon is gone. Stack Attack is very heavily threatened by Gliscor right now. It'll be very interesting to see what it does here. Gliscor does Earthquake and Stack Attack goes down. Deciding to just take it on the chin and not want to sacrifice anything else. The Deoxys comes onto field, 38.8%. It's not looking too great. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Deoxys. I don't know if it gets any recovery. But if it doesn't, then that HP value is rough to be at. It could probably only live one hit from anything that's particularly strong. Probably a couple more from something that's more defensively focused, but I don't know what investment this Gliscor has. It could threaten with a one-shot right here and now. We'll have to see. Either way, Sushi Rule's team looking rough. I don't know if they're able to bring it back, but we'll have to wait and see. We never know what they might have up their sleeve still. I haven't been keeping count, but I think they have one more Pokemon that hasn't come on field yet. Gliscor goes for Toxic as Deoxys sets up Trick Room once more. Deoxys does have leftovers, so does counteract that first turn of toxic damage, but from here on out, it's going to be taking more. And the Ursaluna comes out. It's obviously a Guts Facade Ursaluna, as most are. And this is, under Trick Room, this is a very, very, very scary Pokemon to see. Even with the fact that Domino Stein still has many Pokemon left, Ursaluna is a scary wall breaker, especially late game. I'll have to see how it stacks up. It's very strong, but is it enough to bring the game back in Sushi Roll's favor? The Gliscor going down in one hit, despite being full from that facade, immediately shows you, despite Gliscor being quite the strong defensive Pokemon, just how strong Ursaluna is. And the Corviknight comes out. Does the Ursaluna have an answer? Because Facade is resists, Earthquake is immune. Does it have an answer for this Corviknight? And even if it doesn't, can it really afford to switch out with the turns of Trick Room slowly ticking past, and the fact that Sushi Roll is absolutely on the back foot at this moment? Can they really afford to take it out of the field right now? Corviknight roosting to full. So Ursaluna fire punches, and it does do more than full, and also burns the Corviknight. That's going to really, really hurt it. Corviknight will die next turn to if I know it won't, because it will roost. Decides to drain punch. Trick Room is down. Predicting the roost and drain punching instead of fire punching to get some HP back. Trick Room is down, and the Corviknight survives with a single health point as it U-turns out of the field. So the Iron Valiant comes in. Ursaluna, now that Trick Room is down, Iron Valiant absolutely threatens this Ursaluna. With a close combat or an aura sphere or whatever it's running, physical or special, it absolutely threatens. Although interesting. Oh, never mind. I did not see Photosynthesis proc. This is likely a choice spec, Scarf, or Banded Iron Valiant. And it Twinkle Tackles and one-shots the Ursaluna, playing it safe. Going for what I believe was probably a Z Spirit Break or a Z Play Row. Iron Valiant Moonblasting the Deoxys doesn't do a huge amount, and Iron Valiant dies to a single Psycho Boost. Of course, now Psycho Boost has reduced this Deoxys special attack by 2, but the Deoxys is barely hanging on, and I don't know if Sushiro has any other Pokemon besides this Deoxys left. This might be their last Pokemon. Of course, the Corviknight, barely alive, 1 HP, and burned. I think Deoxys' defense is faster, and it knocks off the Rocky Helmet. I'm not sure who won there, because I think it did take Rocky Helmet damage. I'm unsure who won there. I don't know if Corviknight was the Domino Stein one. Okay. That was a very close round in the end there.